Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm going to be talking about episode 3 of season 2 of Young Justice called Alienated. Now before we get into the story too much of this episode, I just want to take a moment to talk about some of the truly amazing voice actors that we have going on in this episode. I only realized today that it was none other than the legendary Tim Curry who is doing the voice of G. Gordon Godfrey. Of course, we all know Tim Curry from being in some of the Scooby-Doo movies, the animated ones. He's was Dale the Whale on the show Monk, which I really enjoyed. I remember he was Captain Hook in Peter Pan and the Pirates, and of course, we all know him as Dr. Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Also popping up this episode was Michael T. Weiss. I think that's how you say his name, as Captain Atom. Folks of my generation will, of course, remember him as Jared from The Pretender. Let me see. Who else do we have? We have Kevin Michael Richardson. I didn't realize this. He was, of course, the voice of Martian Manhunter. He's doing Jon Stewart in this episode as well. And I didn't realize this until today as well, that he was the voice of Trigon on the Teen Titans cartoon from about 10 years ago or so. And the Trigon episodes were some of my absolute favorites of that series. But the person who I didn't realize that they were doing this voice until a little while ago, but who I'm enormously excited about is Mae Whitman as the voice of Wonder Girl. Now, we would probably, of course, know her as Anne on Arrested Development. She was Roxanne Richer, the ninja girl in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But to many of us geeky folks, she's, of course, Katara on Avatar The Last Airbender. Now, I love me some Katara so very much. She's a great, fantastic character, and May did so much to bring her to life. So I'm absolutely thrilled that they chose her to voice Wonder Girl. She's a perfect pick. But let's get right into it. First of all, we get Earth 16's version of Bibbo, one of those somewhat controversial Superman comics character, but somebody who I've always been a fan of. And I was also a fan of the fact that apparently Blue Beetle can now speak English like a normal person. But let's not get into that. Our main deal this episode is, of course, Aqualad is now a bad guy. And he blames the other heroes, of course, for Tula's death, and this is what has set him on this dark path, apparently. Now, it is established in the comics that Black Manta is indeed Aqualad's father. He is thus a half human, half Atlantean, and as we saw from his father, this of course explains why Aqualad is apparently the only black guy in all of Atlantis. Of course, the fact that they speak a dialect of ancient Greek in Atlantis, this is word of God from the show's creators. For the viewing audience, it's just some American voice actors speaking actual Greek with very bad accents. I'm not going to be claim to be an expert on the Greek language, but this is what I have gathered from reading the comments made about this when they did have those characters speak some Atlantean in some of the episodes from last season. So, of course, having Black Manta as the villain here is very fitting. He is essentially Aquaman's archenemy and has been for quite a while. They do give a nod to his other main archenemy, Ocean Master, who is now apparently. Frankly, I do have to give the nod in terms of the superior Aquaman villain to Black Manta. He's just always struck me as being a very intelligent, very ruthless, very determined person. Exactly the sort of foe that Aquaman should be fighting. And I was pleased that we did actually get to see Aquaman and Black Manta duking it out a little bit, although in this case it wasn't the real Black Manta. And of course, we have boy, sorry, my train of thought is just jumping everywhere. I'm so hyped for this episode. Okay, let's slow down a little bit. Talk about one small, very cool moment. Let's talk about the tour guide at the Hall of Justice. Given the French accent that she's sporting, I think this is meant to be the character. I'm afraid I don't recall her real name, but the character of Crimson Fox, who was a long-serving member of the Justice League Europe or Justice League International, depending on the series in the DC Comics. Never really had anything about. Never really had any huge feelings about Crimson Fox one way or the other. She just seemed to be the sort of standard issue European superhero that you see pop up in comics who just, frankly, aren't terribly interesting. Although she did die in a pretty cool way, pretty brutal way, in a very cool issue of the Starman comics, which I absolutely was wild over when they were coming out back in the 90s. That is a fantastic series. If you really want to read some good comics, go pick up the Starman collections. You will not be sorry. Okay, let's see. One thing that I did like is that they did take some time to show us how the relationship between Superman and Superboy has matured. It was really very exciting to watch those two fight together, see that they have indeed overcome that stumbling block, that distance that was so a part of Superboy's anguish in season 1. I mean, and flat out, Superman even refers to Connor as his little brother. And, you know, how can that not really warm your heart? And of course, we do get to see a little bit of a similar situation going on with Wonder Girl and Wonder Woman. So again, some very nice writing there on the part of the writers. I really do think that sort of connection to the team was needed for Wonder Woman because she is one of the Trinity, one of the big 3 DC characters. So let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Just to sort of jump back to the fight a little bit, I was slightly annoyed by this, and I understand that this is in place for storytelling reasons. But basically, when Black Manta shoots the little explosive grenade at Aquaman, and Superman, jumps in front of it, explodes off him, and there's this big puff of smoke, and then Aqualad is gone. Look, folks, I'm sorry, but if you think about it, really, a little bit of smoke and those few seconds are pretty much absolutely meaningless to Superman. He is faster than a speeding bullet. He is on equal terms with the Flash in terms of speed. So there's really absolutely no reason that Superman could have just had immediately, as soon as the explosion had dispersed, zipped through and grabbed Aqualad. And the only reason that didn't happen is, one, if you do things like that, then Superman is virtually unstoppable except against all but the most powerful of villains like Darkseid. And if they did that, then of course we wouldn't have those very tense, very dramatic moments that happened later on between Nightwing and Superboy. And frankly, I wasn't worried for even a moment that Superman had been killed in that explosion. It is established in the comics that he can survive being at ground zero in a nuclear explosion. Now, granted, that definitely that was a real blow for him, no doubt. But it takes more than a bomb to kill freaking Superman. He's Superman. One thing that I did like, and this was another shout out to the comics, was that the French girl Crimson Fox mentioning that it was the invasion by the Apalaxians which caused the Justice League of this world to form. That's a reference to, I believe it was called Justice League Year 1. It was a 12-issue maxi series written a good number of years ago by the esteemed comic book writer Mark Waid. I've read it. It is a very, very good story. If you can ever get the chance to read the collection of that, I highly urge you to do so. Let's see. Yes. One thing that I need to talk about, of course, going back to Superman for a moment, is when he is attempting to implore the Krolataeans to get into the ship and so that he can save them. See, this is a perfect example of one of the things that is great about Superman. It's even as someone as powerful as he is, as he he is still rooted in those very basic values that Ma and Pa Kent instilled to him. It speaks so much to his character that Superman, this man of unfathomable power, this literal God on Earth, will still take the time to show such tremendous compassion, even though to those who are his enemies. I mean, look at that scene. Superman is all but begging those aliens who are there to invade his home, his adopted home, and do who knows only what to the people there. He is basically almost begging them to allow him to save their lives, and the aliens, because they are unable to trust Superman, die for this. And Superman himself is, well, injured at the very least. He certainly does have the wind knocked out of him. And this is a prime example of one of the things that I love about Superman, of course, and people and DC heroes in general. Now, not to turn this into a DC versus Marvel thing. I love both comic book companies, but what I love about the DC, one of the things that I really love about the DC heroes is they do have that huge sense of altruism, that incredible sense of, heroes do not kill under almost any circumstances. Now, I mean, among the DC superheroes, there are exceptions to that, and there have been times when the heroes have been forced to take lives. Yeah, and I admit that has become a little bit more common these days. But overall, the idea that that the DC heroes believe in more than any other superheroes in comics is that heroes do not kill, and that heroes should be heroic. That they should live up to the ideals of things like compassion and justice and truth. And as hokey as that may seem in our cynical world, our world, which so often takes mere cynicism as if it is the same as wisdom, to see characters who believe that, who live by those ideals, who are willing to set an example for the rest of us, heroes who truly walk the walk, who talk the talk, who, as I mentioned in terms of Superman earlier, are like gods on Earth, but they still are rooted in these values of goodness and compassion and justice. That is, to me, incredibly inspiring. And this is because of that we can have faith in the Young Justice team. And now they have done many things which should give us faith in them. They have proven themselves to be genuine heroes. But knowing that they are mentored, that they have been taught those lessons by people like Superman, like Wonder Woman, like Martian Manhunter, like Icon, like Zatara, all of whom we have seen demonstrate sacrifice, compassion, kindness. And look at this very episode. We see that wonderful moment at the very end, that just family moment between everyone. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, all taking, in their own ways, a moment to say that they love the young heroes that they are leaving behind, and that they trust them to look after things, because they know that those values that they so believe in are embraced by the Young Justice team. And that's why they have so much faith in them, and that's why we should have faith in them as well. Okay, folks, I'm almost out of time. Until next time, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and as always, take care and have a good one.